This is a quick look at the KE62 smartwatch with a claimed AMOLED display and featuring an always-on display, which caught my attention. I'm so used to having the time and date displayed at all times with my Pebble Time, but this is an e-ink display. So let's see how well this always-on display works and how the battery life is having this on at all times. My Pebble Time can still last a full 5 days, so let's see how this one measures up. Here's what's in the box. Just a manual, a typical magnetic charger with USB-A, and the watch itself. The watch itself looks like it has a metal housing. There's 2 blanks on the left side and labeled as sound and heart for some reason. The other side has 2 buttons and a rotatable dial, although the rotation does not function. But it does function as a 3rd button if pressed. Here's how it looks booted up. This is the default watch face, and here's what other watch faces are included, which is only 4, and none of them look particularly nice or easy to read. I hope the dial store on the app has some nice faces to download. First, let's get to the always-on display. We go to the settings, and there's an always-on display setting. There's 3 sliders that cancel each other out for the screen off, which means there's no always-on display, a digital watch face, or an analog watch face. For the digital watch face, these fonts for the miscellaneous information is a bit small, such as the battery level, the date, and the steps. There's so much space here, it could have been a little bit larger. It would have been easier to read. As for the time, it's nice and big, but it's this trendy 2-line time thing. I think it would have been better if it's just a basic digital clock with 1 single line. And here's the analog, which I don't like much because you can't really tell from a quick glance the hour and the time because the hands are so close together in length. I'll stick with the digital one because I can see it and comprehend it much easier and faster. So how did this always-on display work out for me? Well, first of all, once you have the always-on display toggled on, the lift to wake no longer works, even if you have it enabled. So if you need to get more than just a quick glance at the time, you'll have to turn it on with a click of one of these buttons. Now, as for the battery life, the battery is rated at 400 milliamp hours. I have the brightness set to the lowest setting. I have on-screen time of 10 seconds. The battery drains about 25 to 30% a day with the always-on display on. So by the end of day 2, I was already down to 50%. By the end of the 3rd day, it was down to 10%. I pushed on to see how long it would last, and the battery died out in the middle of the 4th day. Now for the rest of the watch. Gesture navigation is pretty much the same as other cheap watches of this type. Swipe down for the shortcuts functions. Swipe up for your notifications. Swipe right to get you your app list. Swiping left gets you your favorite apps that you can set up from a limited selection. As for the physical controls, the top button toggles the on-off of the display. The center dial wakes the watch, then toggles between the menu and the watch face. Long holding the center dial also brings up the voice assistance function, which is actually kind of neat. What's the weather in Lake Titicaca?
It's 56 and partly cloudy. Tonight, the forecast is around 52 degrees and partly cloudy.
The lower button is programmable to certain functions using the down key setting under the settings menu. The app for this watch is FitCloud Pro, and it functions fine. I went over it on my KE3 watch review, and it's exactly the same, so you can check out that video if you like. The link is in the description. So is the always-on display function helpful? Yes, it's helpful, but the battery life is about half of that of my other watches that don't have this feature. The KE3 flashlight watch has a smaller 300 milliamp hour battery, and it can last me up to 10 days. So while it's handy to have the display available for me to look at easily, 3 days of battery life is a bit short for my liking. It would be interesting if there was a version of this with a larger 700 or 800 milliamp hour battery so it could last a work week for me. I'll keep an eye out for something like that.